That's awesome.
So stupid, it's amazing. All right. So, thank you for joining us. This is Matt.
This is Jesse.
And if you haven't figured it out already, you're listening to It Tastes Like Burning, our mostly bi-weekly podcast?
Yeah, no, we stay mostly bi-weekly, yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
If you ever feel like reaching out to us, you can find us at ittasteslikeburningcast at Gmail, Twitter at ITLBcast, and we're posting on YouTube now.
Yeah.
Search for It Tastes Like Burning. I still recommend looking for the podcast. And you can always give us a lick there on Patreon, and we'll send you some stickers.
Yeah, we might come up with some other stuff. You never know about us.
Yeah.
I mean,
with all this free time we have,
yeah,
we'll really bust it out.
I got a shoebox. We can send you a stool sample.
Not to be awkward. No, that's not the intent there. Yeah. So, it appears that we have someone staring through the window at us. You let him in.
Yeah, he was licking it.
Well, it is the weekend.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think the window was just wet, though. Maybe he's thirsty. Yeah. Oh, maybe he is thirsty. Perhaps. We have sustenance. Gene, how are you doing?
Good. How are y'all?
We're awesome. It's been a good couple weeks for the most part.
It's been a busy.
Busy. Yeah. Yeah, we haven't had time to sit down and talk about all the things that have been going on because it has been so busy. But we've had just a lot of good things, some not so good things, and just some okay things, right?
Yeah, I mean, God almighty, it's been like a whirlwind for the last, I would argue, month, but the last 2 weeks, kind of just nonstop. Good, bad, awesome, good, awesome, oh my God, bad, awesome. So, yeah, just a little bit of everything in there, mostly good and some bad.
Yeah. One of the really good things and really awesome things is our city council voted to bless us with some more equipment, right, Matt?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's, without getting all dogma and boring with it, I went into our budget retreat really not expecting anything. We have some other pretty serious capital infrastructure projects going on in our town. And one of our city council members kind of asked me about my capital, and I explained it, and I couldn't believe they bit. Bouncing out of that, requested 3 trucks, got marching orders for 2. Fast forward, here we are, two orders, one for an aerial and another one for a kind of like a mini pumper. I've got a little bit of my own hybrid twist on it. I've always desperately wanted a truck with an ultra high pressure pump on it. And I kind of figure in 5 to 10 years, well, if the trucks get here before then, that the department will either like me or hate me from that decision. But
yeah, but it'll serve the purpose of what our squads currently serve, and it'll have expanded capabilities off of what we're already running for a squad. So it's not a lose at any point, right?
No, and I truly think that it's going to come down to familiarization, orientation, education. But I have a sneaky feeling that I could see a lot of people grabbing that truck if they feel comfortable with its situational use. I could see them using that truck quite a bit. Hopefully. That's the intent.
Yeah.
I could see that, especially for the guys that's not able to drive the bigger trucks. So, for sure.
Well, and that's just, I know we don't really plan on bird dogging too far down this, but particularly for us, we have a lot of new members. Well, we don't just turn people loose in apparatus. We kind of invest quite a bit of time, energy, and training. And quite frankly, the trucks are so expensive that getting them replaced is not really an option from a cost point of view and now a time point of view. And truthfully, at the end of the day, when you start going with, I'm going to call it alternative apparatus that are same function, and they cost, 6 times less, then all of a sudden you have something to actually do work with. Gives you the ability to buy more apparatus too.
Well, and not just that. It's something to get them going, get the new people going and doing something to bait them into doing more, right?
I think that, and then you also have to look at, I'm sinking a astronomical amount of money in this piece of equipment, whether we call it a squad or whatever it is, and that it's cheaper to pay a payment on something else too.
Right. Yeah. And the longevity of the vehicle versus, your standard off the lot used truck or whatever, it's going to have better longevity. It's going to be more usable. There's a whole list of things that it's going to do better than your pickup with a camper shell, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, and this goes into another discussion. Typically, at least for us, and I think this is a pretty common standard across the U.S., when you buy fire apparatus, at least on the volunteer side, you're looking at like a 20-year investment in that piece of equipment. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what the dice roll is on just the electronics in the apparatus. Will they hold up for 20 years? We know the frame will. We know the axles will. Generally, transmissions, engines, ideally they will. Pumps, but body. But I'm real curious about the electronics to see if they hold out for that 20, 30, 35 years.
I mean, I don't think they will, to be honest with you.
I mean, it's questionable to me too, because you look at some of the apparatus that are from that 15, 20 years back. So, and a good example of that's like the Pierce Quantum, right? Awesome piece of equipment, but it had lots of pneumatic stuff and all these things with steps that flip down and all that stuff. And that stuff became problematic with age. And I think you're going to see that with some of the electronics in the modern apparatus.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at just in general, your vehicle. I mean, when we had incandescent bulbs that we would put a headlight in a vehicle and it would last for years, and now we're doing LEDs, and, they tell us it's going to last 2 years or 4 years, and you buy one a year. Or how often are you buying a TV now, or a cell phone, or a computer, or whatever? I mean, those things used to last forever, and now every other year we're buying something brand new.
Yeah, and I think that some of it's planned obsolescence on some of that consumer stuff, right? But I don't know if there's planned obsolescence in fire trucks. I'm not an engineer at E1 or wherever.
I'll be the optimist here. Coming from an aviation background, there's airplanes that have been flying for a long time that have, electronic systems that are 20, 30, 40, 50 years old that still operate. I realize the fallacy in my statement I just made there, but I think the manufacturers are still acknowledging the fact that these trucks won't be replaced every 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, and I think probably the software side of it's upgradable. Like they're building them to where they can upgrade the software components of them, and the hardware components of them are interchangeable and upgradable. So maybe at that 10 to 15 year mark, you're sending it back for some decent upgrades to the systems, the electronic systems of the truck. But some of these systems, I mean, like, what is that? It's the Hell Sam? Isn't that what it is? The pump system that you can control with the iPad or whatever. Yeah. I mean, that thing it's cool. I mean, it's cool. It's got the gizmosity scale pegged out on just how cool it is and what you can do with it. But there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of software and a lot of electronics involved in that.
There's just a lot of stuff to break. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, you 10, 15, 20 years ago, we had an air pack, and the only thing you did was breathe through the thing, and that was it.
Right.
Now we have all these electronics. We have HUD. We have pack trackers. We have all this stuff, and it just seems like every time you turn around, that stuff's breaking. I mean, you're looking at manufacturers, and they're when you used to get a 12-month warranty, now you're getting a 5-year or a 10-year or a lifetime warranty for them to draw you in to purchase their product because they know their stuff's going to break.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of that stuff is battery failures. Especially when you get into the lithium and the rechargeable stuff. Those batteries have a life cycle. We've already seen that with some of our battery operated rescue tools that there's battery failures, and I know departments that have the battery PPV fans that are literally every 2 years they're replacing the batteries in them.
Oh, that's at my career department. Yes, we spent $4,000 on a fan, and every 2 years we're buying $1,000 battery.
Right, and there's some upgrades and some new things. I think you guys bought the one that uses the Milwaukee batteries now, right?
Yes.
Which makes things better because you can run to Home Depot and get new batteries for it if a battery craps out versus the older style ones where it's built into the housing and it's a specific unit and it only fits in such footprint.
Oh yeah.
That's an improvement, and I think some of that stuff's you're gonna see that carry through even in the apparatus where things are gonna become more modular and universal. What was it? TNT. The TNT electric hydraulic rescue tools use the Milwaukee battery platform.
There's some manufacturers out there that you could be platform specific and tell them, hey, I want to use this battery because this is the rest of my equipment. Yeah.
Yeah, which is neat. It's awesome because it promotes the longevity of those tools and equipment.
Yeah.
And anybody that works in a trade that uses a lot of battery tools realizes that no matter what brand it is, whether it's DeWalt, whatever, those batteries only last what those batteries last. And they're a consumable item, really. So to go into that modular platform makes a lot of sense.
I think the fire service as a whole, when I joined in 2010, our primary flagship apparatus was like one generation removed from, for lack of better words, the horse and carriage. And the thing that I can't believe in the fire service is for how long ergonomics weren't a thing, and then all of a sudden they are. And they've gone just full tilt extreme on the opposite end of where and that's what it is, consumerism has now met the fire service.
Well, yeah, because if you're buying things that you're using at your house that are easier and better and work and more user-friendly, and then you're going to work or going to the station and you're using the similar tool that's beating your ass up, something's got to give.
I think generational, too, though. We've got folks in the fire service that cannot work on anything. They just can't. I mean, hey, give me a screwdriver. What do you want, the plus or the minus? I mean, we have to change.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happened.
Yeah, it's just, it's hard to describe because on the one hand, there's, oh man, boy, we could really go down the rabbit hole on this and, take your tinfoil hat off and step in my tinfoil dome.
Reynolds?
Yeah. I just see, for a lack of better words, manufacturers in the fire side are being enticed by opportunism.
Well, yeah.
Now, some of it, I get while they're doing it, even though I am adamantly opposed against like an electric fire truck. the fact of the matter is that we're this tiny, know-nothing volunteer department, and we sure as hell don't set any sort of industry standard. But on the flip side of that, you were generating a 20-year piece of equipment. We'll be generous, 10-year piece of equipment. There's not a single person that's manufactured an electric vehicle for 10 years. And you're taking as something as heavy and as complex and is here's the operative word, critical, and putting it on a platform that is beyond first generation, and you are expecting everything to work flawlessly. And again, it's market driven. I get it.
Well, and I think most of those manufacturers, Rosenbauer, Pierce, I think E1 has something out now, but they're everywhere that those are at right now is like beta testing. Like they're not full on. Like you can't go order one. Like you've got to get chosen.
No, you can order those.
You can order one.
Pierce and Rosenbauer.
I think that the thing that there has to be a lot of thought into purchasing one of those. I mean, you went from buying, $1 million fire truck to a $2 million fire truck because of the electronics involved in it, and then your other factor is do I have the means at the station to charge that thing? Do I have the infrastructure in place? I mean, look at San Francisco or New York, where they've had firehouses in service for over 100 years. You're telling me those stations has the means or the abilities in those areas or districts to be able to charge those fire trucks so that they can run like they run?
Yeah, I don't think that's realistic in any stretch. That most of those places, and most fire stations in general, are going to be they are where they are, and the majority of them are surrounded by other things. There's not room for expansion. They're not growing. They're kind of landlocked, and they're not getting, the utilities aren't going to make this major upgrade to an area to feed this stuff. I think I have no problem with the technology or going forward with some of that stuff. But I think if you're wanting to test the waters on some of that stuff, the Bat Chief vehicle becomes a Ford Lightning or the Hummer EV or whatever. Like that's where you test bed this stuff, is in something that if that guy doesn't make it to the call's still going to happen, right?
Yeah. No, I was at, FRI, Fire Rescue International, when they started talking about the electronic fire trucks, and, Pierce come out and they talked about how it was going to double the price to go EV. And then you're looking at another $250,000 to add the infrastructure into the fire station if the surrounding infrastructure could support it. How in the world, everybody's struggling at today's times to buy $1 million fire truck? How are you going to come in and say, now I need, $2.25 million to buy a fire truck?
Or I can buy this regular $1 million fire truck that's tried and true.
I can buy two for what you're wanting to buy the one.
It reminds me of the South Park episode where they all bought Priuses and they smelled their own farts. Matt can tell you all about that. He knows about that.
It's kind of not smelling your farts, but I don't have I drive a Prius. I'm not a tree hugger. I like 50 miles to the gallon gas. Okay. Oddly enough, the only problems I've ever had with that car is when you don't put enough gas in it. Moving on. Here's my issue. There's a reason aircraft carriers aren't designed with solar power generation. There's a reason that missiles don't have a powered by EV. There's just certain things that need to be using more reliable, proven technology. We're not talking about the city parks department. I don't understand the commitment to putting cops and firefighters right now We're not talking in 50 years when this is a proven technology and they're in their 10th generation. We're talking about first generation, not even prototype vehicles to the half generation, working the bugs out right now. I don't get it. It makes no sense. It's not cost effective. How on earth, and I'll be gentle here, as a fire commissioner, city manager, a board member, a council member, an alderman, a fire chief, how can you sit there and say, no, we'll take that one engine, and that's all it is an engine for $3.5 million, but we need almost $1 million in upgrades to the station so we can charge it. But I still need other apparatus. I'm sorry, you fall on deaf ears at that point. That one engine plus the station upgrades cost as much as 5 other pieces of equipment.
Yeah. Yeah, and that goes back to my point. If you're going to test something like that, you make it the admin vehicle, the freaking battalion chief. I'm fine with the squad being a Lightning, or if they ever get produced, the Cybertruck. That'd be cool. That'd be a pretty cool little runaround squad truck. But it's not realistic for, like, frontline has to get there kind of vehicle, right?
No. It's just not practical.
I hope it becomes practical and good, because I know it's going to be quieter and I don't have to listen to the damn diesel engine just roaring in my ear the whole time.
Well, look at all the manufacturers that came out with apparatus that had EPUs, and that, the truck would shut off and then the EPU would kick in and it would run, and it was just as loud as the truck running, and the EPU would break, and then it's like, what are we going to do now? And it's just, they spent all this money because, we're going to save all this money in diesel, but the EPU would kick in and a secondary generator would kick on and run, and it was just something else to break. I haven't seen one of those trucks in years.
Yeah. Well, and all those things in the history of apparatus, all those things have come and gone. There was a whole host of engines, and E1 made a bunch of them that had they were all C-cab Fords, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just the truck was the C-cab Ford, and it had whatever engine in it, and then in the pump house was another engine that ran the pump.
Right.
So it's got twice as many engines. Like, yeah. How does that make it better? Well, there's twice as much stuff to break, and it uses twice as much fuel, and on and on and on and on.
And I want to be kind of clear on my stance on this. I actually don't have a problem with green energy.
No.
And here's part of the reason why. I like anything that challenges and pushes us forward from a technological point of view. I don't really care how wonky or weird it is. I actually am a big fan of anything that generates an innovation in engineering, in technology, and just thinking. That said, my problem is that you don't take prototype, alpha, beta type, prototype equipment where it's not even first gen yet, and you're putting it into service for protecting your community. I just don't agree with it.
At 2 or 3 multiples of the cost, right?
Right.
Well, the military hadn't done it yet, and if the government's so set forth on this push, why is the military not doing it? Because they know it's not going to hold up and withstand what we put things through.
Yeah, that's a good point. And funny thought is, you order that electric fire engine. What's the lead time on it?
Oh, I have no clue.
Because we know what the lead time is on a new ladder, right?
And if you don't, I'll tell you, it's 36 months.
Yeah. So, are they pumping those out faster to try to make them more appealing? I don't have a clue. Maybe they are. I don't know.
If that's the case, I would argue it's a conspiracy theory. And we need to step into the basement of my tinfoil dome.
Yeah, I don't know, but I know that when you're ordering a new apparatus right now with a 3-year lead time, how in the world are you supposed to plan around that?
You don't.
I mean, there's departments right now that's already placing orders 5 years out because they know they're going to replace apparatus in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. They're securing pricing right now and going ahead and ordering those trucks so they get those trucks when they know that they're supposed to replace those pieces of equipment so that they're there because they can't wait.
How are they getting around that? Because city councils aren't supposed to be able to commit future city council to, for lack of better words, debt encumberment.
I don't know how they're doing it. I really don't.
But they're doing it. Yeah.
Oh, they're doing it left and right.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's a lease program, or I have no idea how they're doing that. But it happens all the time. I mean, they're ordering so far out now that, and in multiples, and some of these cities are doubling down and ordering twice as many so that they ensure that they have reserve apparatus.
I mean, there's a department in north central Texas that, they ordered an ambulance, over a year ago. They still haven't gotten it. I think they're closely approaching a year and a half, and they've changed chassis 4 times because they can't get a chassis.
Yeah, well, locally they're on the 26th month or so waiting for their ambulance, and it's all chassis.
That's infuriating. The whole lead time, wait time. There's shenanigans afoot there.
What kind of bind are you in? Let's just go on the hypothetical and say that your city has one aerial apparatus, right? And I don't know, it gets T-boned by a concrete truck through no fault of the department, and it's totaled. Are you legitimately going to wait 3 years and have 3 years without the ability to have an aerial apparatus in your city?
No.
I think the correct answer on that depends just exactly how close your mutual aid with the nearest nearby aerial is.
No, I think what happened is that the used market pricing has went up just astronomical because nobody wanted to buy a used piece of equipment and spend $500,000 and get it now. That's something that's 10, 15 years old when I can spend $750,000 or $1 million and get something brand new with a warranty.
Well, I saw an ad the other day on Facebook for I think it was a 2014 Ferrara International 2-door engine, like a 1250,000 engine, 1250 pump, 1,000-gallon tank, 2-door engine. And that engine was priced used at $230,000. I bet you that engine didn't cost $230,000 the day it rolled out of Ferrara.
I sold a brush truck at work for more than what I paid for it in 2011.
Yeah.
A couple of months ago.
It's insane. Absolutely insane. No, I just did. It makes no sense. Like, they're worth more than what they were the day they rolled off the floor.
Well, I mean, everything is nowadays, though.
Everything except for what I'm selling. Yeah, what I'm selling doesn't bring that.
I think the manufacturers, I mean, and I hate to blame it on COVID, even though we've had more deaths out of flu than COVID, and we never had a pandemic over that. But the manufacturers seen the ability to reduce staffing and still put a product out and charge more for it. Everybody was good with it. And so they kept it where it was, so the profit margin would go up. We told everybody during COVID it's going to take 2 or 3 years to get it out. It's going to cost you twice as much as what it cost originally. Everybody's okay with it, so let's just keep doing it.
Well, who blames them, right?
Yeah, I mean, because realistically, your profit margin in that given scenario didn't double, it quadrupled. Because you're taking the same apparatus and stretching the lead time with theoretically less employees over twice the time.
I mean, then
it's guaranteed income for a long period, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, and then, you're looking at everything that we do in the fire service is backed by an NFPA. 75% or better, the people that sit on the NFPA committees is the manufacturers that build those products. So, of course, yeah, let's change something so that we can make more money. NFPA 1851 is a perfect example that bunker gear expires after 10 years. ARF gear expires after 5 years. They didn't say that if you want to continue testing that piece of equipment for the next 30 years and it passes, or you're willing to put the money into it to pass, that you could continue to use it. No. They said, let's expire it after 10 years and it ain't no good. Okay. So somebody takes an exception and says, you know what, we're going to continue to use it after 10 years because we're a volunteer department, which is what happened in the state of Texas. But what's going to happen when you have a line of duty death or you have a significant injury when somebody comes in and does the investigation? You're not following National Fire Protection Association minimum standards.
Yeah. Which, regardless of whether you like it or not, that's what you're held to, right?
Correct.
It's no different than the certification process or anything like that, right? If your state certification doesn't follow NFPA, the question is why? Why would it not? And it comes up all the time, and I'm all for it. Like if you're gonna dive in head first, do what it says, right? Just follow it, because until you and I, Gene, get on the NFPA and we say, no, that's bullshit, it's the law of the land, whether it's the law or not.
Yeah.
Well, in part of this discussion, and don't get me wrong, I mean, I think this is a fantastic thing, and we could really go down the rabbit hole on this. But at the end of the day, it just kind of ties in with what I would call as a national problem. And it just boils down to the just unfettered greed by these companies. And coming off of COVID, they saw an opportunity to take a pandemic and take 1 or 2 quarters of losses and turn it into 30 years of gains. And there's nothing to just stop it anymore.
Well,
and I see this everywhere. I mean, again, I think the fire service is just catching up.
Yeah, and there's a deeper deal. Because if you were in business, even in the 80s, right? It was easier to be profitable in the 80s or in the 90s or in the early 2000s than it is now in the 2020s. The tax burden is higher, the regulatory burden is higher, all those things that chip away at that profit margin for a business. And believe me, I see it in my business. All those things that, oh, it's not that much, it's just this little extra, it's just this little extra. Well, all those little extras have added up over the last 30 years and pushed prices of goods and services, reduce the profitability of businesses. It's a real problem across the board. And I'm not just talking about taxes in general or any of that. It's all of those things combined. The cost of technology, the cost of internet. Internet was a cost that wasn't a cost 30 years ago.
Right. But an employer's main expenditure is their employees.
Labor. Yeah.
And it's labor. Wages haven't gone up in 30 years. I mean, they've gone up a little, but not proportionally.
Not proportionally. Not proportionally to the tax burden or the insurance or the regulatory. Insurance has skyrocketed over the last 30 years.
But again, the main burden overhead is the employee. So it still is today. So it doesn't matter how much the insurance or anything else went up. The fact of the matter is that the employee is making less than what they were making 30 years ago, but their revenues and profits are up. Now, you as a small business, you're getting baby seal clubbed. I won't dispute that. Yeah. But the billion-dollar conglomerate corporation? No. They're having payments on fire trucks 15 years in advance. They're okay. Yeah. And who supplies all the crap to the fire trucks, on and on. These are not small companies. These are not small support networks. These are not small subsidiaries that are in the place of doing this. And I know it sounds like, oh God, he's a communist. Get him, tackle him. I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at absurd profits right now. And the companies just are belly aching. And again, I'm not talking about mom and pop. About woe is us. And it's like, what is your actual revenue right now? It's astronomical. It's a problem.
Well, if you can make twice as much money and do half as much work, are you going to do that every time?
Well, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no. That's the kicker in that. Don't think for a second that I'm sitting there saying that it's the robber barons running the bank. That's not the case. They're being allowed to do it, and I would argue being encouraged.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, stomping small business.
Yeah.
Really, my little rant there is actually an advocate for smaller businesses and to break, there's communism again, break these bigger companies up and get some actual competitive practices back out there.
Yeah. Well, and the reality is in the fire truck world in 2000, there was twice as many or 3 times as many players in the market as there is today.
How many major manufacturers are left? E1, Ferrera, Pierce, Rosenbauer. You want to throw Seagrave in there?
Yeah, but okay. Well, you can throw E1 in there. You can throw Ferrara in there. You can throw Spartan in there. The same corporation owns those companies.
Yeah. Basically, it's 3: Rosenbauer, Pierce,
no,
and what is the
Rev
E1
Group?
Rev Group?
Rev, yeah.
Yeah, because all the others, the American LaFrancis, the Boardmans, the Quality,
It's gone.
all those, they're
Crimson,
all gone.
Schmiel.
They're all gone.
Well, Rev owns Smill. Crimson, Laverne is all Spartan.
Yeah, Quality.
Spartan.
Yeah,
all
I
Rev Group.
even think that smaller company, Fox.
Aaron's Fox.
Fox.
KME.
KME, they
yeah.
were gobbled up by that. Fouts was gobbled up by Metro.
Well, that's in Texas.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think who's the...
Sutphen's,
the parent company?
Sutphen's still out there, though.
I thought that was Rev Group.
No, Sutphen's still their own.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but look at our span, Class 1, all the gauges. Rev owns them.
Yeah, and Sutphen's such a small piece of the market, right? They're
at least in Texas.
I mean, if you're not in the Northeast, they're not big. They're not doing a lot. Pierce is running the board on most of that stuff, followed by their next closest one's E1.
I would say Spartan's next.
Yeah. It's going to be one of those two. Yeah.
Not Rosenbauer?
No.
Take your personal biases out of it. I thought it was Rosenbauer.
No,
I
think
globally, yes.
Ooh, I don't know.
U.S., no. Well, globally, Rosenbauer's way bigger than Pierce globally.
Yeah, they own Europe and
Asia
Europe. And Africa.
Yeah, but I mean, you're looking at Pierce though. You're looking at Oshkosh as well, though.
Yeah, but globally, Rosenbauer's the largest manufacturer of fire equipment in the world. It is what it is.
I mean, it is what it is. The old Rosen crap. I mean, it is what it is.
I've bought a couple of those.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We have one.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that one, too.
I don't really have a problem with Rosenbauer per se as much as I just wasn't a big fan of the vendor.
Yeah, the vendor's probably not the most awesome in the world.
I've
used them.
I mean, I like E1. Don't get me wrong. Lifelong friend works for E1. I like their apparatus, their equipment. It's just, the provider of the service. I mean, if
Yeah,
you can't get it fixed, you can't get it worked on, then why in the world are you going to buy it?
Yeah.
Well, and that's an argument that I use with city council for always buying Pierce is, quite frankly, they can be worked on locally.
Support. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've built a network of support, at least in Texas, right? And that network is strong and good because they're the lion's share of the market.
And their trucks are awesome.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Just saying.
Nothing wrong with that. So, Matt, you want to tell the world kind of what about our ladder? You kind of briefly mentioned the quick attack, but what are we getting for a ladder?
So our ladder is solely intended to be a complement and accessory and a benefit to our tower. So our tower is mid-mount 100-foot platform dual axle. Our ladder is a rear mount single axle 107-foot ascendant. I absolutely love our tower, but I would also make a hellacious argument that you need a rear mount apparatus also.
Oh.
And the two complement each other just beautifully. And talk about inflation. I could go through the prices on that and the numbers. That thing about ate me alive in the equivalent of a quarter. And the only thing I'm disappointed in is that it is 35 to 36 months out. And I mean, the truck that it's replacing is a 1998 quality.
I mean, I think the thing that we have to look at, though, is with that single axle 107 is that it's going to get in places that tandem axle 100-foot mid-mount platform is not going to get. How many apartment complexes do we have that we cannot get that platform in because it just won't get back there because of the way the parking lot with the overhanging structures or the turns is made?
There's one for sure. I mean, unequivocally one.
I mean, it's actually next door to where we're at right now.
Yeah. There's one apartment building that you cannot get into the driveway, the parking lot, and navigate around. You might be able to do it at 3 o'clock in the morning, truly knowing what you're doing. And
force spotters.
Right.
Man, I don't know. I've driven through that apartment complex. I had a hard enough time in a pickup truck.
Well, it's tight in an engine, and I mean tight in an engine. The truth is that our pre-plan for that is the aerial currently just sits up outside the building. You know, go high and aim far.
Yeah.
That's the plan for it. So, like I said, there's one building emphatically 100% sure cannot get into.
The advantage to that single axle, though, is that, you know, we've got a lot of folks that just don't know how to drive as big of a truck as that platform is.
Right.
I mean, you have to know what you're doing. You have to be able to pay attention.
And plan ahead.
Yeah. You know, all right, I'm coming up here. I'm going to have to take a left or I'm going to have to take a right. It's a sharp turn. There's telephone poles. There's, you know, whatever. And that Ascendant, yeah, it's 107 feet, but it's the size of an engine. And we know that they can maneuver those trucks around in the city, so they should be able to maneuver that Ascendant. They're just going to have to watch for overhead obstructions.
Yeah, because it's tall.
Yeah.
Where that tower's not super tall, but it's long and heavy and wide and has less turning radius, right? Or greater turning radius.
Greater.
Yeah.
I mean, anything replacing our old aerial, which is truly the size of a battleship.
Oh, it's an albatross.
I mean, it's just, God, it's a huge
how long is that
piece
truck?
of.
Is it 50 feet?
No, it's actually only 48.
Oh, okay.
Only 48.
Only 48.
Wow.
So if you're dragging 2 firemen behind it, you're over 50 feet.
That's the same length of a 50-foot hose, because you only normally get 48 feet out of every section of hose you buy.
Yeah, well, that's budget cuts, right?
They make a
Yes.
pill for that. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, no,
Yeah.
that's something else.
I don't know if I've ever been able to get a 50-foot section of hose actually 50 feet long in the last 15
Well,
years.
if you'd buy 75s, they'd be 50.
I don't know. Well, you're good point. Good point.
Yeah, it's the old truck. Well, sure is long, but at least it sure is heavy.
And
people-
it takes 7 acres to turn.
Yeah, people, our guys drive that truck. Like, there's an enigma about driving that truck. And I'm telling you, people and our members don't get it until they go to operate it. And then once they start to actually operate it on scene, they quickly double back on that. They're like, oh, yeah, nope, pass. Yeah, that apparatus, I would love to find a state trooper brave enough to let me run it across scales. One, I think it'd break them. Two, I think if we survived the scale weighing, I think they'd tell us to park the truck.
Well, it probably took them 2 months to get it here from the manufacturer, as slow as it is.
Well, they didn't get the sail high enough. That's the kicker. You got to get up. Yeah, it's stupid heavy. It's got something like a 255 or 265 foot turning radius. It weighs 1 billion pounds.
But at least it holds a mile of 5-inch.
Yeah. No, and he's not being superfluous on that. It can hold, the bed will hold a mile.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, when that truck was manufactured, there was only 2 trucks like that built from that manufacturer ever.
Thought there was 3.
Was there 3?
I thought there was 3.
I only
'cause
thought there was 2.
There was 2 that went to that one place, and then we got that one.
Okay, well, maybe there was 3.
Think there's 3. 2 for sure
I mean, but our truck is the only one still in service
in the world.
in the world. Yes.
Yes.
And yeah, for sure.
And it has a can opener and a pair of scissors and a fork and a spoon.
I mean, and besides it carrying a mile of 5-inch, I think it's got 4 miles of a tack line on it. As many
no,
cross
it's got,
laces that thing has on it.
What,
6 cross lace.
4, 6, yeah.
6 cross lace.
Yeah.
2 deck guns. The world's biggest bumper hose tray that you've ever seen in your life.
Well, 'cause
Multiple discharges off the back. Yeah, no. That truck could flow water when, like, oil refineries could only dream of flowing 4,000 GPMs.
I mean, we've pumped the lake dry twice with it.
Now, everyone keeps threatening to drive it off into the lake, and I keep telling them, you don't understand, it's amphibious. All it'll do is make it to the other side of the lake and then get stuck.
Just like the Highlander, it'll just walk in one side and out the other. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there can only be one.
It's,
I mean, it should get an award.
oh, it did. 4,000 years ago. The Egyptians were impressed with it.
I can't believe they built the albatross, really, to be honest with you.
Well, when you have...
A hot test bed of a community that'll pay the price for
Well,
for being a guinea pig, right?
and
I mean,
the
I guess
right,
if you're willing to pay, anybody will build anything.
Yeah,
including a golden toilet.
yeah. I'm looking for the 75-foot F550, but you know,
They call that a bucket truck.
yeah.
And the sad thing is that as much as we're making fun of that truck, the fires that it's been on, it has performed beyond admirably and done very, very well on scene. The sad fact is, though, is that we haven't even been able to truly reach 30% of the potential of that truck because of the infrastructure that it would take to be able to try and get that truck to run even close to capacity.
Well, and it's literally 25 years in service, right?
Right.
Well,
That's kind of a testament to it. I mean, and granted, our city does does above average in maintenance. I would put them in the above average category.
There's only a handful of us that'll drive it.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Well, and to a certain extent, it's so big that it's intimidating to people, which is good that the membership's aware enough and cognizant enough to realize that that's not the one to be messing with. And the same goes to our current aerial.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the new truck will service much better and it'll get more use than this one does. Because our tower gets it gets taken a lot.
Yes.
It makes it out of the house.
Yeah. Our big problem with our aerial is, particularly on the residential side, power lines. All of our residential communities have overhead obstructions. And it just, not every single time, but almost every single time automatically precludes the equipment from being able to be used because of the power lines. Now, the handful of neighborhoods that we have that have below ground power lines, yep, those are big houses already, and we would already be taking the truck to that area anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reality is you might take it anyway because at least it's got equipment on it, right?
Right.
Largest complement of ground ladders on anything we got.
Besides the original ladder.
Yeah, which has 3 of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that. 235s.
135, but 2 of everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you ever want to see a real special duck, now send us a message. I'll tune you in on that.
In about 3 years from now, it'll be up for auction.
Yeah. Probably be able to sell it to you for $2.25. Jesse, you got anything else?
No. Gene?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, we're going to call that an evening. Give you the old podcast notes real quick. If you are interested in buying our ladder truck, you can reach out to me at ittasteslikeburningcast@gmail.com. You can find us at Twitter at ITLB. Don't forget, look for the old YouTube videos at It Tastes Like Burning Cast. Do search for a podcast with that. Support us on Patreon at It Tastes Like Burning. This is Matt.
This is Jesse.
Have a good evening.